Hi, I'm Jeanne Kelly, your credit coach, and I am so excited to have my dear friend Jimmy Leyritz on today's podcast. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, Jeannie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm actually kind of enjoying the rainy weather that we're having in California right now, as we can use as much as we can possibly get. So I'm sure
Yeah,
it's a little cool where you're at.
it is cold and chilly in New York, but of course, my sister decided to visit my brother this week in California when it's just complete rain her entire trip.
Yes,
But that's okay. They're having fun and playing a lot of board games inside.
there you go.
So, Jimmy, I'm so excited. Of course, you're a retired New York Yankee, and obviously, I'm a big fan, but I love you. And I love all of your speaking events and how motivational you are. I've heard you speak so many times. And please tell me that for the new year, you're going to add things for a speaking schedule. Let me know what's going on with that.
Absolutely, yeah. Right now, our media group is getting ready to drop the sizzle reel for all of our speaking coming up in 2023, and now that everything is starting to open back up again and
Right.
people are bringing speakers back out, we had got some good momentum going before COVID, and then unfortunately COVID hit, and that kind of took away all those events. But they're coming back now, and we figure it's a perfect time, especially for the motivational type of speaking that I do about never being drafted, making it to the big leagues, different adversities that I've gone through, with the broken leg, not getting drafted out of high school,
Hmm.
overcoming those odds, really all about faith and perseverance and never giving up. I did that during my entire baseball career. I've done that when I went through my accident and some of the things I went through at post baseball. But just really, really concentrating on um, talking to young athletes, young college kids who are going through some of the issues and problems that adversities that I went through and how I was able to overcome them and the tools that I was fortunate to learn during those years, especially playing in New York City, in the hardest media capital of the world for the New York Yankees, um, where there's no more pressure than anywhere else in the world. I mean, anybody that talks to you about playing in New York, a lot of guys can't handle that pressure. And I was one of the few, uh, again, not being the star athlete, not being the number one guy, the everyday player who was able to do it for 11 years
Wow.
and have some pretty good success and have some great World Series moments and memories. And of course, post baseball life, use all of those tools that I learned to be successful into all different types of spokesperson businesses that I'm involved in the business world, title insurance, now with IT services, and of course, sports agency work that I'm going to be starting in 2023 also. So exciting times coming
Yeah.
up for me in 2023. Good news, Jeannie, is I will be in New York,
Whoop.
living in my apartment from April till October,
Okay.
working for the Yankees and a few other things that I'll be doing.
I love that. Okay. I can't wait to see you. And, one thing that you mentioned, casually mentioned, and it's so important, we have to have more than one stream of income. I believe in that. And I was a failure at that in the sense that I didn't learn until I really wish I knew ahead of time. So in 2008, when the crash hit and the housing market crash, I was only doing, which I live and breathe the credit industry, but that was it. And so when my income dropped dramatically and really I had struggles during that time. And then when I rebuilt the company, I started saying, I can't just have one avenue of income. I have to learn, even though I love credit, I love a lot of other things as well. And so staying still in my circle, I could do more than just credit, and adding other avenues are so important. So, again, just like you with the speaking, why not talk more about it? And I love that you're saying for the college athletes, I think that you're the perfect person to talk to all college, whatever. You don't always say sports, you can relate with sports, anything in life, you know? That's why I talk about credit in the 90-day credit challenge. I make it like a game
Right.
because we all play games, right? And we all know there's ways, to there's rules to every game and things to help you, but I just think that that's a perfect niche for you.
Well,
Obviously, you can speak to anyone, but
right. And the abilities and the experiences that I've had, like I said, from being a professional athlete, um, but a professional athlete, you don't even really pay attention to your finances. You hire a financial advisor who you put your trust in, and sometimes you don't get the guys that are very honest. Unfortunately, I had one of those, and because of my own ignorance, I did not pay attention. I just looked at my month-to-month statement and said, "Okay, I got money in the bank. I'm good." I didn't know all about credit. I didn't know all about these things. And then when I was hurt and left the game earlier than I expected, and we didn't have a whole lot of money, I didn't know about all these things. And then, of course,
right,
uh, parlaying a very successful TV and radio career, but then having the accident in 2007 where I lost everything.
hmm,
And my credit just got ruined through divorce, through all the other things that I went through. If it hadn't been for you, meeting you in 2009, I don't know where I would be because I didn't know anything about how to get my credit back, how to get these creditors, and learn the techniques that you have to be able to, get a 7-year mark on your credit taken
right,
off that you just didn't pay attention to or didn't know how to do that. And
right,
all of these things that I was able to learn from you, we sit here today, 15 years later, and my credit's back to 680, 700, and things are starting to get better that way. And I am more aware because of you on the other things to do to keep track to make sure, a $25 Kohl's charge doesn't take 100 points off your credit because you
right.
forgot to make the payment.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. It's so true. And Jimmy, thank you for saying that. And this is what I love, the educational part, because sometimes we have to live with some of the things on the credit report, but that doesn't mean, even if you have some negative items, you can still have a good score. You can still rebuild your credit. And that's the part that sometimes you don't want to bury your head in the sand, right? And be like, oh, it's hopeless because it's not with your credit. But you do have to pay attention and you got to roll up your sleeves and
well,
get to work.
and I use your knowledge all the time to my own children. Yeah,
Oh,
because they're 28, 27, and 22 out on their own right now, and they have no idea about
right.
credit, no idea about what could hurt my credit. And I've really, from what I learned from you, was, even if you do have a hospital bill that you can't pay the entire thing, and it's a $260 charge, and you ignore it, and you ignore the letters, and you ignore, oh, I'll get to that sometime. They'll send me, this letter that says I'm going to a creditor, and then I'll think about paying it.
Right.
My children didn't have that knowledge. They let them lapse. They went to a creditor, and then all of a sudden they go, "Well, we're going to go get my first apartment," and realize I've got a 400 credit score because I didn't pay that bill,
Right.
even though it was 260. I try to teach them now, just like you taught us. Hey, don't ignore it. Call
Right.
these people, work on a credit payment plan for them. Tell them that you'll pay $25 a month,
Hmm.
something that is in good standing with them so they know, hey, I'm not just ignoring you. I'm going to try to help, make good on this.
Yep.
I'm just struggling right now.
Yep.
And those types of things have really, really helped my kids really, not get into the kind of trouble that I got into.
That's awesome. Well, that's what we have to do, right? Share the information with our kids and teach them that credit's not a bad thing. I always say it's a bad thing if you're not paying attention to it. It can cost you more money
Yeah.
or it can save you a lot of money. So let's have it save us money. Now, also talk about the sports agent thing that you met. I'm hearing you slide these things in. I got to pick up on it and
Yeah.
figure out what's
So
going on.
So I met a man named Ray Mira Jr. At Yankee Stadium probably 10 years ago. He and Raj Bear, the famous New York Ranger, he did all of Raj Bear's marketing. He had a financial company that worked with Fidelity that Rod used to represent. And he used to do all these appearances and all these different things with Rod. Well, of course, a year and a half ago, we lost Rod. And Ray and I were talking this past season about, what I was doing. And I said, yeah, I said, come the end of the baseball season, I usually work for the Yankees during the season and make about 10 or 15 grand a month doing appearances for the Yankees. I don't have that from October to April.
Right.
And I need to find something to do between those months to earn money. And he said, well, why don't you come work for my companies? I have all different types of companies, and you'd be perfect for it because I've known you for 10 years. I see the way that you do with the appearances that you do for Rod at Yankee Stadium when I'm in those suites and you're there talking to all my clients and how good you are with them. And it's just networking with people.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I would love to give you the opportunity to work for me and make up that money that you're not going to be having between October and April.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, it's a huge opportunity. So I'm doing a spokesperson for that. And then I'm also a spokesperson for a new IT company called Atlantic Tomorrow's Offices. And again, Jeannie, it's the same thing. The reason these people like to hire people like myself is that I'm doing 70 Yankee games in the suites at Yankee Stadium. I'm sitting in legend seats down with the top 5% of New York. And all of these people love the New York Yankees. And when they come over to see me to talk about baseball, they say the first thing usually is, what are you doing these days?
Right.
Well, it gives me a perfect opportunity to say, do you need IT work? What do you do? Do you need title insurance? Because I work for AmTrust Title. Also, there's all, and like you just mentioned, it's good to be diversified, but it's the same type of work. It's just networking and being able to go into a suite, and I find out that it's a real estate company's suite. Well, guess what? I have title insurance. I have a
Right.
real estate license in New York.
Yes, you do.
There's different avenues that I've been able to, go into and switch to. And one of the things we always talk about is being adaptable
Mm-hmm.
and being adaptable to be able to create change and make change. And I've been able to be very lucky to do that and have the people that need my services hire me and become successful at doing that. And it's excuse me, it's adaptability, being able to say, okay, you know what? It's the same type of work. It's networking. And it's one of the things that I talk to all these college kids about is, besides text messaging, pick up a phone, call people, Zoom people now that we have Zoom.
Yeah.
You'll get a much more personal relationship than text messaging or emailing people. And it'll go a lot further in your business and in your networking. And I just think it's something, like I said, I learned because I played in New York.
Right.
I had some success as a New York Yankee, but I also went through adversities with the DUI manslaughter trial that I went through, that I was found not guilty at the very end. But it took 3 years, and I lost a lot during that time. But during that time, I never gave up. I read a book called The Purpose Driven Life by this pastor named Rick Warren.
Yes.
It's how I met my current wife, Michelle.
Yes.
And the 3 years of going through what I went through, as tragedy as it was something that taught me and gave me lessons that I am able to now talk to kids, the college kids, about. Hey, one drink and you get behind the wheel of a car, you could cause a lot of damage. I was the king of New York. I never had to pay for a meal or a drink anywhere I went in New York. And because of one bad choice, I lost all that for quite a while. And it took many, many years, despite being that Jim Leyritz of the New York Yankees World Series champ, despite having that moniker, it took a lot of work and a lot of dedication and a lot of negativity that I had to overcome to get back and to show people. I had a reputation counselor that told me, you don't need to do anything more than what you did when you were a ball player and you were involved in charities and foundations and you were finding foster kids homes. Jimmy, go back to doing those things and don't ever drink and drive again, and learn your lessons. And you know what? use your pain, use those tragedies that you went through to help other people. Because Pastor Rick Warren taught me, if you don't use your pain to help others, was it really worth going through that pain? And
Right.
Jeanne, I've been able to speak at churches. I've been
Hmm.
able to speak to colleges, kids, and talk about, hey, I was never drafted, made it in New York, went
Right.
through some adversity with the manslaughter trial from drinking and driving. Don't do that. I got in
Right.
trouble even after everything got back to normal, and I was working for the Yankees and I sent out a tweet on on media, on my social media, that I thought was private because I wasn't very good at it at the time and
Right.
wasn't aware. And because I thought it was actually a joking tweet,
Right.
but I lost all my Yankee work, which is about 50 to 60 grand.
Right.
And because of one stupid social media, and with these kids nowadays, sharing that story, sharing like, hey, I interview people now for jobs,
Right.
and I'm able to Google you. And I'm
Right.
able to go look to your social media. And you know what? If you have a picture posted from back in college, you were smoking a bong or you were drinking at a party, and we all check social media. Every major company has a social media department now that when you get a resume, they're looking you up. And if they
Right.
see this picture, now listen, they may not care because they'll see it's college. They'll see it was a frat party that you were just enjoying your college days. But they're going to have that picture in front of them as they interview, and they're going to ask you, "You ever smoked pot before? You ever have a drink at a party?" And if you say no, you just lost your interview.
Right. Right.
Now, if you're educated and I'm able to talk to these kids about these things, all I say to them is say, "Hey, yeah, you know what? I experimented sometimes in college. I did some things back then that, what I've learned from, and I don't do that anymore." Now that whole interview changes. Now
Right.
your employer trusts you. Now the person that's interviewing goes, "Okay, this person's honest, and now I'm going to give him more of
Right.
a benefit." And I also talked to the college athletes about, hey, you were a college athlete for 4 years. You didn't make the pros. You didn't go professional, but you're sitting in front of an interview and you had a 3.4, a 3.5, and you're going up against a guy from Harvard with a 4.3, and they look at you and go, "Well, yeah, but you were a professional or you were a college athlete. You did that plus go to school." And I know that as an athlete, you woke up every day, you were committed, you went through
Hmm.
adversity, you had to be on time at practice. You played through injuries, you played through sicknesses. You're not one that's not going to show up at your job over a hangnail, you
Right.
know. And those type of things, I tell these kids, those are so important to put on your resumes, to talk about to your whoever you're interviewing with, because that does separate you from just the regular college kid that has the great education from Harvard or Yale or wherever, because they know that despite you being able to learn what the business is, you're going to show up every day, and you're going to be adaptable. You're going to be persistent. You're going to make sure that you overcome failures,
Right.
because you've done that. And
Right.
to really understand that how important being a college athlete is on your resume once you leave college.
Yeah, because also team player,
Yeah,
you work well
exactly.
with others. And I don't know, for me, uh, I'm the underdog in the sense of I never finished college, right? I had bad credit, and I used to, Jimmy, believe it or not, I remember in the beginning when and I'm finishing up a book that that I'll be putting out this year, but I didn't mind, I wasn't embarrassed when I went to look for business to have people trust me with their clients. I didn't mind saying I had bad credit.
Yeah,
I was a disaster.
yeah.
I didn't mind saying that and, being not the smartest person maybe in the room.
Well,
But
here's the thing, Jeannie. I tell people
Mhm.
all the time. I was a professional athlete, World Series champion.
Yeah.
I went through a trial for DUI manslaughter for many years. I had a successful TV and radio career, and I'm now back working for the Yankees and doing everything. It's been a lot of things that I've gone through. But when I go to speak, a lot of times people are like, "Why do you talk about your accident? Why do you talk about your, what happened with the Yankees and you lost work for?" Why? I said, because you know what? Those are the mistakes I learned from, and maybe if
Right.
I share them with you, you'll get in those situations and you'll realize, oh, wait a minute. I remember Jim Leyritz telling me this speech and what he did to overcome those adversities, what he did to overcome those issues that he went through. And a lot of them were good, but some of them were bad. And the bad ones were usually a one-time mistake that I learned from, that I try to share with people. And it's just I'd rather have someone speaking to my kids or to kids that has had the problem.
Right.
I don't want somebody like Derek Jeter, who's had a successful career, has done everything right in his life, and it's everything has gone right for him. Now, don't get me wrong; he's worked hard,
Hmm.
he's a dedicated athlete, his workouts, but he never had to deal with overcoming a DUI,
Hmm.
overcoming a trial for 3 years, overcoming an injury that cost you being drafted. I would rather have someone like a Daryl Strawberry talk to my kids about addiction than Jim Leyritz, because yes, do I know a lot about addiction because my wife was an addict? Of course, but I wasn't the addict. And
Right.
therefore, how am I going to speak to your children effectively about
Right.
addiction?
Right.
I'd rather have Daryl Strawberry come in and talk about it because he actually went through it. And
Right.
that's the thing that I mentioned with my speaking stuff is, unfortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it. For me, I say fortunately, because I look at all my life experiences where I am today and say, you know what? I wouldn't change a thing
Hmm.
except for the woman passing away in the accident. But
Hmm.
everything that has happened to my life, even in baseball and even before all that, is why I am the man I am today.
Right.
And I'm very proud of the man I am today because, as Pastor Rick Warren says, a lot of people know my persona, but a lot of people don't know my character. And my character is the most important thing. And that's the one thing that has never changed throughout all of my life because of my father, who I just lost this last June. What he instilled in me as far as being a man, always fighting for the truth, even though it may be the hardest thing to do, instead of taking the easy way out. Fight for the truth and don't ever let, the truth will set you free, as we always
Right.
say.
Yep.
And I was able to do that and overcome these adversities on the baseball field, off the baseball field, and now in my life as a Christian, that, being with Rick Warren here in California at his church
Right.
uh, for the last 11 years, learning from him, getting his mentorship, and really basing my life upon doing the right things, doing the godlike things, and still being able to share my pains and my stories with others to be able to help them too.
Well, and that's what I love about you. You keep it real, right? Because it's real life. Everything isn't with the rose colored glasses on. And it's nice because a lot of times people are embarrassed to share
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
And so, Jimmy, I always appreciate it. That's why I asked you to come on. And I know like how important it is for you to speak at the colleges and all over. Again, I had you at the local church here in New York because I knew everyone would have value listening, and they're still talking about you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that was great. That was, and that was awesome. And then I just got done speaking in Omaha, and it was the first college speech that I had done since COVID.
Oh,
And it was one of the universities there, and speaking to them, their athletic director was a woman, and she came up to me and she said, what do you speak about? What do you talk about? And I said, well, you know what? You're about ready to see it. And I said, I haven't been speaking much because of everything that's gone on. And when I got up there and I gave the speech, and I shared obviously I played the World Series home run and showed the kids, the good moments of, what became Jim Leyritz, the King of New York, and the New
right.
York Yankee World Series hero. But then I also play in the video the accident and what I went through. And then, during my speech, I spoke about the highs and the lows.
Right.
And when I shared the athletic part of it, the kids were locked in. When I shared the accident part of it, and about drinking and driving, these kids were even more locked in. And then when I went to social media and talked about the tweet that I sent and how dangerous that was and how stupid it was, all of a sudden these kids were even more focused, asking me more questions about, how did you not know it was private? How did you not, all these different things that happen. And I said, if you're going to be on social media, use it for positive things.
Mhm.
Be careful, because if you post a picture, you post something, you can't get it back. And I know
Right.
these kids go, oh, Snapchat, we can get away with it because it goes. What if somebody takes a picture of your Snapchat? That
Right.
doesn't go away. You can do that.
Mhm.
So those are the type of things I spoke. And it was interesting because when I got done, Jeannie, the athletic director, called me over and she said, you know what? I'm really glad that you didn't tell me what you spoke about, because I might have had you, not speak about certain things. She said, but watching these kids and watching how locked in, she goes, we've had many speakers here and they usually lose these kids within 15, 20 minutes. She said, you just spoke for 45 minutes and not one kid took his eyes off you. She said, their phones were all put down. She goes, why aren't you doing this at every college? I said, ma'am, I'm going to be coming back to you when I drop my scissor reel for a quote, and you can put that in there so I can be
Absolutely.
hired by many colleges.
Right? Absolutely. But keeping it real. I mean, as you were saying that, I was getting goosebumps because I believe it, and we just, and if you can prevent someone with learning about, be careful with the tweets or whatever it may be and the texting, and also like you said even before, I think they're used to. I shouldn't, I mean, everyone is comfortable with sending a quick text or this and that, but when it comes to networking and getting to know people, you have to make the connection.
Yeah.
And I say that to my sales team all the time. I say, like, you know what? It used to be people didn't pick up the phone. That is true, Jimmy. Back in
Oh,
the day,
yeah.
15 years ago, they let it go to voicemail. Now people pick up their phone because it hardly rings.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, it just is what it is, how things change. So make that connection. And you're so good at it because it's just your true self. I mean,
Right.
you really, it's just comes so natural to you. But when you do what you love, I always say the money always flows and everything's easy. And no matter what you're doing, I see you at Yankee Stadium all the time. It doesn't matter what whether it's the real estate office or whether it's a bunch of kids or it's something totally different. It doesn't matter. You're always clicked in because you just love to learn more about other people and you care about them and it shows.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about sharing the good experiences and the bad experiences with people. And it's amazing, Jeannie, doing some of these appearances at the stadium. Uh, like this week, I leave tomorrow for the Yankee fantasy camps. So I'll do the men's camp and the women's camp this next 10 days.
Nice.
And even those relationships that I've met these people. And, of course, sometimes the elephant in the room is the accident. And a
Right.
lot of times I can tell when I'm doing an appearance that maybe somebody in the suite isn't comfortable, and they're like, oh, isn't that the guy that did this? And I'll find that person and I'll speak to them. And the first thing that I usually lead with was, yeah, I was, World Series champ, but I went through a lot of adversity with my accident. And then all of a sudden the people go, can we talk to you about that? Can you share that with me? And then I'll share my side. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, well, you know what? I lost a son when he was 4 years old. And, I went through some adversities. And how did you overcome what you went through? And I use the Purpose Driven Life for all of my friends, because it's not a book that's like a Bible thumping book. It's a book about what your purpose is in life.
Yeah.
And it uses some Bible things, but it's not this hardcore born again, you can't do anything wrong
Right.
type of book. And the first 4 words is the most important thing I ever learned from that book. Being a professional athlete, when my whole life was all about me,
Hmm.
people were interested in my life. That the first 4 words in that book that hit me so hard at the time going through the accident when I was going through, because that's when I found this book, was in 2008,
Okay.
before my trial in 2010. And the first 4 words, it says, it's not about you.
Mm.
And to learn those 4 words and to learn that mindset and to learn that having grace in the in the throes of adversity, in the throes of negativism coming at you because of what people just read in the paper. You know
Mhm.
what? You know the story of how I met Pat Pinto in the Yankee bathroom
Yeah.
because he was talking about me, and he didn't know I was there in the stall, and I came out, and he thought I was going to beat him up, and I said, "No, listen, I understand. You read the papers, but I can
Right.
tell you right now." And this was early. I said, "I won't see a day in jail because the truth will set me free." And
Mhm.
sure enough, it did. And to this day, Pat is how I met you.
Yes.
Pat and I are still good friends. I
Yep.
go, but it could all changed if I would have walked out of that bathroom defensive and try to beat him up and try to use the old athlete like in me, because I read that book, because at that point in my life, I was starting to transition into being a Christian and transition into dealing with grace and realizing that people are going to have opinions. You just have to respect their opinion and maybe try to change their mind with the truth. And
Mhm.
really, that's all I've been doing for the last 10 years since the accident was finished. And I've been able to rebuild my life with my beautiful wife, Michelle,
Yes.
who's been nothing but the best partner, friend, lover, but Christian co-part in
Mhm.
our lives together, that we've been able still listen. We still have adversities. We still lose parents. We still go through all different types of things that we go through. We have problems with children, but because our life is God centered and
Right.
because it's centered together,
Mhm.
we are able to overcome those problems to make them just that go away and
Right.
understand that we can deal with these, and we just have to be godlike and graceful to be able to get through those periods. And it's just been a blessing, Jeannie. And like I said, your friendship, for what you've been able to do for us. And then, of course, what we can do with each other to help each other, because we're both networkers. We both have the same type of friends.
Yep.
And to be able to help each other is a huge part of our lives together, too.
Yeah. No, I listen, I can remember the day that I met you, and I had no idea how close of a friend you would become, but it's just so easy with you because, again, just like you said, you speak the truth. Michelle is amazing, and it's just always great whenever I get to see you. It's a blessing, I swear. And I have that book because of you. I remember I read it, and I'm going to pull it out of the library again. It's a good reread over and over.
Well,
And
I tell people all the time, listen, I have Michelle and I wake up every morning.
mhm,
She goes to her table, I go to my table. We do 15 to 30 minutes of Bible reading, thanking God for what we have, thanking for our health, thanking for our children's health, all the things that we're grateful for. Then we spend a little bit more time, just personal praying and just starting the day God centered. So, because we know things are going to happen in our lives with
right,
children, with everything, that we're going to deal with some adversities, but we're able to be centered from the beginning of the day. And we're able to handle those things with grace, with calmness, to be able to get through, unlike if we just started the day without anything. And
right.
it's really helped our marriage. It's helped our relationship with our kids. It's helped our businesses. And
Yep,
that's the one thing I tell people about the purpose driven life. I still keep it next to my bed
yep,
every day. And I take it on the road with me to New York, and it sits by my bed, because there's going to be times. The beauty of the purpose driven life is you're only supposed to read one chapter a night.
mhm,
And so what I do is I keep that book by my bed. So if I come home from a Yankee game late at night at 11 o'clock and I've had a frustrating day, or I've had somebody giving me such a hard time about everything that's gone on in my life in the suite, or something happened at the field, whatever it might be,
right.
and I'm struggling a little bit, I pick up that book and I read one chapter and I refocus.
Yep,
One of the things I always talk about in my speaking is my dad taught me at a very young age is to wake up in the morning and say, "Thank you, Father," not him, but the guy
right.
upstairs,
Yep,
and then go to bed at night and say, "Thank you, Father." And the way that he put it to me was, I want you to wake up every morning as you're brushing your teeth, because he wants me to be, good hygiene. He said, I want you to thank your father. And then I want you to go, what can I do today to either go out and make myself better, my team better, or the world better? And what can I do when I walk out this door to accomplish that? And at the end of the day, before I go to bed, and I'm brushing my teeth again, is I answer to those same two people, yourself and the guy above.
Mm-hmm.
And when my dad taught me that, and saying to myself at night, if I didn't do it today and didn't accomplish everything I wanted to, guess what? I pray the good Lord gives me a breath tomorrow so I can try it again.
Right.
And my dad taught me that before he knew I was going to become a New York Yankee,
Hmm.
before he knew I was going to be, under this controversy and all these different things and being judged a lot in my life, that his advice was, you only have to answer to two people, yourself and God. And if you're good with that and you can put your head on the pillow every night knowing you've done everything for the two of you, you'll be successful.
Yep.
And that's really what's helped me all of these years, playing for the New York Yankees, dealing with the New York media, dealing with Mr. Steinbrenner, then having been leaving the career of baseball to come home and take care of my children and become a dad.
Right.
Because my ex-wife had addiction issues, and overcoming all these different things and these sacrifices. And then, of course, going through the accident, and then finding myself in 2008 reading The Purpose-Driven Life, and really, really totally understanding what life and what my purpose is. And like we've just been talking about this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
my purpose is to share the good stories and the bad stories to help others. And that's what I'm looking forward to in 2023.
Awesome. Well, Jimmy, I have your website there and we'll put all your links in, and this time has flown by, so thank you so much. It's always great seeing you. I can't wait to see you in person as soon
Yes.
as you get back here to New York. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
All right, Jeannie, I'm looking forward to it. Remember, April to October, I'll be there every day. So hopefully we'll see each other.
You got it.
All right, take care, Jeannie.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Bye.